This is the Theme Park Loopy Podcast.
Hello everyone and welcome to the Theme Park Loopy Podcast. It's just me today, but I'm starting a new series called A Brits Detailed Guide to Orlando. And the idea is that if you enjoy planning out every detail of your trip to Orlando, or you're thinking about making a trip but you don't know where to start, then this series is going to be for you. So not only will I be sharing my experience topic by topic, but I'll be sharing with you my thoughts as I start to plan out a new trip for 2025. That means I'm inviting you to join me on my planning journey as I consider different options and make decisions ahead of our trip next year. This series will be an addition to our popular Going to Orlando discussion series, so if you're looking for lots of content about planning a trip to Florida, then you're definitely in the right place. So grab yourself a cup of tea, settle down, and let's begin. So one of the first decisions that you'll need to make is when to go to Orlando, and a lot of this is down to your personal situation and preferences, but it's possible that you may be considering at least a couple of different options. Some of the things you'll need to think about will be what events are happening, i.e. Halloween, Food and Wine Festival, Christmas, etc., crowd levels in the theme parks, and of course the weather, but spoiler alert, it's pretty much always hot, at least compared to the UK anyway. Cost will of course factor into your planning, but I think it's more relevant to what you want to do, where you want to stay, where you want to eat, etc. So I'll cover budgeting and costs to consider in a future episode. So today I'm going to talk you through some of the most popular times of year to visit and go through some of the pros and cons of each. It's probably worth mentioning that there aren't any secret or obviously best times to visit Orlando, so you'll have to decide what works out best for you. At the end of the show, I'll tell you about the favourite time of year that we have, and we'll also share with you the results from a poll that we ran on the Theme Park Loopy Instagram page. Okay, so let's start with Easter. So visiting Orlando around Easter means that you'll probably have to deal with the crowds. It's a popular time to visit for both visitors from the UK due to the school holidays and in the US as well. Dependent on exactly when you want to visit, you may also encounter spring break as well. All the theme parks across Orlando are very likely to experience heavy crowds for the last 2 weeks of March and the first 2 weeks of April as well. So outside of these times, the crowds may be a little bit more manageable. That said, there are some compensations to visiting around this time, in particular the weather, as temperatures are a little bit milder than in the summer, and the temperatures can range somewhere between 26 to 29 degrees, and humidity will be a little bit lower as well than during the summer months. You may also be able to experience the popular Mardi Gras event at Universal, which runs until early April. Plus, it's also the EPCOT Flower and Garden Festival, which usually runs until around May. So I can understand why this time of year is popular with families from the UK due to the school holidays and also the lower temperatures, but the crowd levels are really important for me, so it wouldn't be the time of year that we would choose to visit personally. So, moving on to August. August in Orlando is hot and humid, but if you visit in the second half of August, the parks can have some of the lowest crowds of the year, and this is because schools in Florida reopen in the second part of August. If lower crowds are important to you and you can't visit outside of the UK school holidays, then August can be a really great time to visit. Again, just remember though that it can get really hot and really humid. By mid-afternoon, temperatures can be as high as 35 degrees, which when you're in the middle of a theme park can be pretty much unbearable. I think if you were to visit in August, I would suggest visiting the parks as early as possible before heading back to your hotel in the afternoon for some time in the pool, and maybe later in the day you could visit another park or go out for dinner. I probably wouldn't recommend trying to stay all day every day in a park during August, so this is something that you should probably take into account. But for us, because we don't need to worry about the school holidays and because personally I'm not that great with the heat, while it is tempting with the lower crowds, I'd prefer a slightly cooler time of year to visit. Okay, so now let's take a look at September. So September in Orlando is the start of the spooky season and the temperatures start to get a little cooler. It's still pretty hot though, with temperatures reaching around 32 degrees still on some days, but it starts to get a little cooler as the month goes on. Crowds will generally be a little bit lighter in the parks, but a big downside of that is that due to some Halloween events, some parks will close early on selected nights, such as Universal Studios, in order to prepare for Halloween Horror Nights. This just means that you need to be extra careful when planning your park days. You don't want to plan a visit to the Magic Kingdom but then miss out on the fireworks due to it being Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party, for example. Another very popular event during this time is the EPCOT Food and Wine Festival, but I would recommend trying to avoid Fridays or weekends if you're looking for a more family-friendly atmosphere. Okay, so finally, let's talk about November and December. This is the festive season in the theme parks and resorts, so as you can imagine, because it's winter, it's quite a lot cooler than most of the year, but that being said, it's still pretty warm, and for a British person, it's quite surreal to hear Christmas songs all day, but wearing shorts and t-shirts. While November and December can be a good time to visit Orlando in terms of manageable crowd levels, this comes with some heavy exceptions. The first being Thanksgiving, which will see huge crowds across all the theme parks, and secondly, over Christmas and New Year. Personally, I'd suggest visiting the first couple of weeks of December. This means that you can avoid the Thanksgiving crowds, and then you can soak up the Christmas vibes just before the crowds pour back into the parks. So I'm now going to share with you when our favourite time of year is to visit, and also reveal the results from our survey on the Theme Park Loopy Instagram page. So the crowds and the heat are a couple of deciding factors for us, and so Easter and summer are not really on the table for us. However, we have visited in both December and September. A big plus of visiting in December is seeing all the parks with the Christmas trimmings, and while the parks are trimmed up also for Halloween, they really go all out at Christmas. For us though, overall we preferred visiting in September, so while it was certainly warmer than December, we really enjoyed the more summer feel around Orlando, and as adults without kids, we felt that Halloween and the Food and Wine Festival suited us better overall. I think that this is because the trip in September felt a bit more like a holiday, and as we get a little bit older, those rest days really do start to get important. In a future episode I'll talk about how to make the best of a rest day while in Orlando, so keep an eye out for that one. But before we wrap up, I'll reveal the results of our survey, because we asked whether people preferred to visit Orlando in spring, summer, autumn or winter. So the winner of the survey was autumn, which received 38% of the vote, and that was followed by summer and spring, which both received 23% of the vote. So, there you have it. September, Halloween, autumn may be the best time to visit Orlando, but, I'll let you decide. So we'll finish there for now, but if you want to, you can follow us on Instagram and send us a DM if you'd like to ask us a question or share your thoughts. Also, feel free to leave the podcast a rating or a review, but in the meantime, I'll see you again real soon.